So there's a global pandemic. A virus is sweeping across our world. Still, and society has changed. What is happening? Are we going to be able to have Christmas? Is anything ever going to go back to the way that it was? Well, probably not, but most likely this is just what life is like now. If you haven't considered these questions, you will. So we'll be here with you, your personal guides on this journey. This descent into chaos. Thank you for joining us at Staring at Goats.
That's it. That is the one and only TV's Travis with that intro. This is Staring at Goats, your guides through the plague lands, trying our best to make sense of it. Obviously getting exhausted by the whole thing. But I will say this. We have turned a corner in the insanity in that we're all so crazy and used to it now. It almost is fun to talk about. I say almost.
Fun.
Almost.
I think I have the same sigh of resignation as Travis.
Yeah, but we're picking stories a little bit with a little bit more flair. I would argue that in the last couple, 3-4 weeks, we've picked stories that we could go, this is ridiculous, versus the deep, dark despair. And I don't know where that hope is coming from, but I'll tell you this first. I'm your host, Steven, joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Jacob, my other wonderful co-host, TV's Travis, who are all here to make sense of it. But yeah, I think that we're doing, maybe I'm just having a positive day. You can talk me off. You can talk me to jump off the ledge if you want. You can say, Steven, it's not good.
No. I want to hear positivity, man. Stay on the ledge.
Hurl your body over the ledge with the rest of us so you can be down in this pile of human flesh. And no, I'm not gonna. I'm feeling okay today. And no, the news is absolutely terrible. Everything about what's going on now is terrible. The planet is on fire and as a disease. I'm basically at this point, I think humans are a virus and the earth is just activating its immune system, its immune response. Overcrowding is taking its toll.
Style is what you're saying. It's Agent Smith's take on humanity.
Right, but we're all Neo. We're all the anomaly, and it's like, this has gone too far. I'm going to start warming. I'm going to get a fever, and then I'm going to send my antibodies after you, and we're going to trim the fat here. That's my thing. That's what I'm saying. But anyway,
we're not all Neos, though. We need a Neo. We don't have a Neo.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's the issue at hand.
Yeah, we need a Neo to come in and fix it. That would be fine. But yeah, so here we are doing Staring at Goats, chit-chatting about what we got going on. I know we've got a lot of news to cover, and I want to get to it because I think a lot of it's really fun, but we should start with the roundtable. And this week, since Jacob's the only one of us that put notes in, I want to hear, well, Jacob, do we start? Which one of you has the stronger rant this week?
I have a pretty good one.
Jacob's got a strong rant. Travis, how you feeling?
What do you think? You got a pretty good rant?
I've got a bit of a rant, but I want to save it for our deep dive.
Okay.
My rant's going to be around the deep dive, so I'm going to save mine. So I concede the floor to you. You may have my time.
Apex Skate Park. 3 words. That's all I've got to say is Apex effing Skate Park. Every day that I drive by there on the way to the in-laws' house, because that's the only 2 places that I go in the world right now, my house and the in-laws' house. That's it. I drive by this skate park, and this skate park is full of people, like shoulder to shoulder full of people. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, damn, that's a lot of people. And I get up a little bit closer and drive around it. And I'm like, oh my God, there's not a mask in sight. Not one effing mask in sight. I guarantee you there are over 100 kids that range from 6 years old all the way up to 56 years old that are in that skate park. And not one of them is wearing a mask. And I don't understand. There are emails going out from churches right now saying, we're still holding gatherings. Come on in. And I'm like, we are in the worst part of this pandemic right now. This today makes April pale in comparison. But yet we're doing these stupid freaking things every single day. And I see it and I want to choke somebody because we've normalized this shitty behavior. Yesterday in North Carolina, today we had 6,500 cases. That's triple where we were, 2 months ago? Triple where we were. The day after Thanksgiving, they did not report values on Thanksgiving Day. They doubled the numbers the next day because bottom line is they still had a number of cases on Thanksgiving, but they didn't report it because those folks weren't working. They took Thanksgiving Day off. So the next day, the following day, they reported 2 days worth of totals on Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. And guess what? They were still at the same levels that we are right now. So Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, which had 2-day totals, was the same number of cases that we saw yesterday. Our hospitals, we have 2,500 people in the hospital in the state of North Carolina. That is at 78% capacity. Our ICU beds are at 85% capacity. If you need an ICU bed because you get in a car accident, guess what, bucko? You ain't getting one. And I don't understand what's wrong with these fucking people. Just stay in your home, wear a goddamn mask. Sorry.
You turned green there for a second, Jacob. You had some coming out. No, I mean, your figures are sound. It's infuriating, and I think that's one thing I was trying to push. I went on the Facebook, you guys. I went on the Facebook,
Oh no.
and I wrote down,
Oh no.
I hope Grandpa doesn't have a stroke in the next week, because Grandpa might have a hard time getting help, because you dumb butts are walking around with no mask, acting like you're fine eating dinner at Chili's with not a care in the world, and it's a problem. Oh, but 99% of people don't get sick enough to go to the hospital. Yeah, well, 1% is apparently enough to clog it up. You bunch of
Yeah,
turds.
Yeah.
completely clog it up. We're at 85% capacity in the hospitals. I
Yeah,
don't know about anybody else, but that kind of scares the shit out of me right now.
it
Because
should.
if
Yeah.
heaven forbid something happens to me, my family, anybody, any of my loved ones, any of my friends, guess what? They will not have a bed around here.
Nah, it'd
Nothing.
be toast. What do you do? I mean, what does happen? Like, I would love to talk to a nurse or doctor or somebody who understands this whole system, because I know there's like the idea of putting people in the hallway. It's happened before. But like, what do you do when somebody comes in? You life flight them 800 miles away to some other hospital? Um, like that's the thing. I don't know what you because there's the whole you can't turn people away if you cut your half your head off with a with a chainsaw doing work in the backyard.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna bleed out on the floor because I don't have anywhere to put you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I would imagine surgery, operating rooms would be there, but where are the nurses and doctors who've been up for 48 hours treating COVID patients, and then you got your thumb put on backwards because they were tired. Who knows? Who knows? It
Well,
is a
Yeah,
they're
bad
because
sending
it's
situation.
people to other hospitals, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
but I mean
they're
that
basically
how long
turning them
does
away
that
and going,
work?
until those beds are full, until they can't find anybody. and
Yeah,
and then they're just, what I've heard, and I read an article about this, guys. They were talking about they're triaging COVID patients now. So if you come into the hospital and you have tons of symptoms, if you're of a certain age, they're not even letting you into the hospital. They're just sending you home. if
yeah,
uh if you don't have symptoms that are bad enough to require maybe the extreme hospitalization, they'll just give you some medicine and send you home. So they're actually triaging COVID patients who should be getting a level of care at the hospital. They're sending them away and saying, well, if your symptoms get worse tomorrow, come back and see us. So now what they're doing is, typically they would have these number of symptoms, you got to go into the hospital, or this severity of symptoms. They're saying, nope, 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 nope. We're going to make it even harder for you to get to the hospital. And so only the worst of the worst now are going to the hospitals. And we're still full.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's not good. Yeah, I think about Lando's uncle who got it, and his O2 had dropped to like some obscenely low number. Like that would be a circumstance you'd want to keep somebody, but unless their
Yeah.
oxygen levels are low, I hope you say you can't breathe, but your oxygen's doing okay, so you might want to just go home, hopefully not die in your sleep. Might
Yep.
want to have somebody awake with you slapping you in the head every 20 minutes. I mean that's terrifying. Weird. It's
And
just
so
yeah.
the other thing I wanted to mention here in that rant, because that was I got a little more I realized how pent up I had that.
Yeah, you carried that. You exploded
I
that all over the internet for everybody.
I did. But this is the problem that I have with that. If you get COVID, okay, that's fine. Um, I'm not upset with the people who are. What I'm upset about is if you are going through the motions of pretending like this isn't a problem, pretending like this isn't a pandemic. You're still traveling, you're still going to church, you're still going to the grocery stores without a mask, you're still going to skate parks, you're still doing the things that you did pre-COVID. If you're treating it like it's not a problem, those are the people that I have a problem with. If you go to work and you happen to get it, I feel bad for you because that sucks.
Yeah, you were in a pickle.
Because that was not in your control at that point. But what is in your control is if you go to restaurants after 11 o'clock or go to bars and party down or go to big parties or go to that is in your control. And that's what's been happening. And the state of North Carolina recognized that. So what did they do? They reinstituted stay-at-home orders this week. They said, no more. You're closing your doors at 9 p.m. Period. You're stopping serving alcohol. We're not having these late night social gatherings that's making these transmissions go through the roof. And people are pissed. And I'm like, why are you so pissed? You did it to yourselves.
Yeah, if we
because
could
it's
have
not real
stopped.
to them.
Yeah.
That's the issue. It's not real to them. And on top of that, you can't stifle my freedoms, and you can't stifle my freedoms when it's inconvenient to me. That's the issue, and that's the mentality that gets us in a situation like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's frustrating and it's really aggravating. And not only is it a case of hospitals being full on beds, but the staff to help these people are running on empty and have been for months and have to keep going. They don't have, I mean, I don't remember what article it was I read. It was about I want to say it was a doctor who was on his 254th straight day of
Oh my
working.
gosh.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Ugh.
I have worked not in a hospital 43 days in a row, I think it was, when I worked for EA Sports. That was awful. And yeah, it was somewhere between 30 and 40 days in a row. That's like a fraction of what this guy's worked in a hospital situation during the pandemic. I can't even imagine that. Those are that's the other side of things that people aren't paying enough attention to is all the people that are affected by this that aren't catching the virus, aren't catching COVID as well. All because you don't want to wear a mask because it hurts to breathe when I wear a mask.
And Ashley and I were actually having this conversation over dinner. She was like, well, I don't want people to get COVID, blah, 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 because, they might get sick. And I'm like, well, the problem is that some of the people that are getting sick are dismissing it or aren't getting sick are dismissing it. They get COVID and they're like, oh, well, I've got COVID, but I don't really feel bad. This isn't bad at all. What are people bitching about? And so all of a sudden, more people are acting more cavalier because
Mhm.
their buddy got it. And they were like, no, I didn't even have a cough, guys. And
Yeah.
so I believe there's this maverick mentality where people are like, shoot, not me. I'm gonna go out and enjoy my life and live my life, baby. That's what I'm gonna go
Well,
do. I'm gonna go live my life. And
hell,
then
my sister, who I talked about last week because I had to have my test, thanks to her, you know, letting me know that she tested positive, and she said the only symptoms I had were a loss of smell and some taste, which again is not out of the ordinary for her due to her sinus stuff.
yeah,
And she was saying to everybody, I had to take time off of work, but nobody else in the bakery had any problems, all this stuff. I said, well, you guys also take crazy precautions to be clean at work. And I'm like, you're still being careful, you're wearing your mask, you're doing things that you should be doing even if you're not showing these symptoms. I tested negative, I did not contract it, but I still, like, I barely leave my house now. And
Yeah.
when I do curbside pickup for my groceries, so I don't go in the grocery store anymore.
yeah,
You know, it just because I didn't catch it doesn't mean that it's still not. It's safe for me to just go back to normal, and that I think is the most dangerous mindset because we can't get out of that. Is this go back to normal mindset? There is no going back. We have to evolve and move forward, Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, it seems clear to me that the people that want to do it are not over. We might like you could even be in the majority. Like let's say the people who want to do what they're supposed to do are the majority. That minority is still really strong and it's still spreading it everywhere and causing an
Well,
enormous
they're
amount of
loud.
problems. Yeah, and they're loud. They're loud.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. And I saw this graphic the other day, and I don't know if it's accurate. I didn't fact check it, but it seems reasonable to me. It was like deadliest days in American history, and it's like
Yep.
Antietam, had this many loss of life. 9/11 had this many loss of life. Last Tuesday, last
Yes.
Wednesday, last
Yeah.
Thursday, and I'm like,
Well,
yeah,
this week they're predicting to actually break that 9/11 barrier.
and start having a 9/11 every day,
Yeah, because
and yeah.
9/11 was 2997, I believe. Somebody fact check me on that, but I believe it was 2997, and we're this week we came real close. I believe we were at 2900 earlier or last week. I from my understanding that we're gonna see that in the rear view.
What do you guys think it will take? Is there anything? Is there any number that would get the attention of the people that are still on the let's get back to normal, it's a disease, this happens kind of bus? Can we reach those people with a number of deaths, or are they just people die and that's the end of it?
It's going to be people die because now they're statistics. They're no longer, unless
Yeah.
it affects somebody close to them, they're not going to. Just
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just the mentality they're going to have. And even then, it's a toss up whether or not they're going to think that it was because of the pandemic or just, well, they got sick and this and that or whatever. It's really hard, but I don't think there is a number. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's got to be something that gets close to them.
Yeah, and the other component that I think is the vaccine has really also made people go, well, there's a vaccine coming, so it should be all right. And
Yeah,
they don't
that too.
realize that it's going to be 6 months before potentially the general public gets it. If you're not in a high priority group, and this will the rollout of this is going to eventually light my fire because I know what they're going to do. They're going to give it to the healthcare workers first, which is perfect. They're going to give it to the
Mhm.
nursing home staff. They're going to give it to the nursing homes, which is, again, the right call. Then they're going to give it to people with comorbidities or multiple conditions that are elderly and or have COPD or have rheumatoid arthritis or have cancer or the sicker folks. However, it's a violation a lot of times. Some people can't ask what kind of conditions or can you prove your condition. So they're going to have to go based on self-reported data. And so you get to walk up to CVS or wherever's going to have it, probably not CVS, but the healthcare system, and say, I want a COVID vaccine. They're going to ask you, do you have two comorbidities? And you could say, yep, I sure do. And they've got to give it to you. And that's going to tort me off because I know there are going to be tons of people that are just going to be like, yeah, I got two comorbidities. I'm going to go. And they're going to take away the shots from people that truly do need it first. They don't realize the people that do need it, they need it. Not everybody needs it right away. The people that really have high risk of dying are the ones that truly need that vaccine or that work with it every single day and it's in their face. Those are the ones
Mhm.
that are going to need it. But I have a bad feeling that when it does roll out, people are going to be like, "Oh yeah, I got two comorbidities. Come get me. Come get me. Here's my arm." And I'm gonna have another rant.
You're gonna be
Because that's
really
literally
upset.
what it is. But I think people see that vaccine on the horizon, and it's a great light at the end of the tunnel. But they're seeing that light, and so they're like, "Oh yeah, this is great. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Let me go to my Christmas party now because there's a light. I see it.
Right,
So we should
right.
be all
It's
right."
you have this assumption like, oh, I can go out and do whatever I want now because the vaccine is coming. Well, you don't have it yet, and even when
Yeah.
you
Right.
do have it, if you did the Pfizer vaccine, for instance, you've got 14 days before it's really rocking your immune system and helping you out. Which we'll talk about that a little bit later. And everybody's all got all this attention on Pfizer and Moderna. There are 11 vaccines currently in
Yep.
play being researched and in various
Mhm.
stages of approval or testing. We got a lot more than just Pfizer because I know everybody wanted to light up the White House this last week for only ordering 50 million Pfizer vaccines, having an option for 100 million and declining, um, which is pretty bad because those 50 million are two vaccines, I mean 25 million people. Um,
Yeah.
that's because you got to have two, and if you only got 50 mil, but Moderna's coming, and then you've got the Oxford vaccine. You got a whole bunch of uh, different vaccines coming. So it's not
Yeah.
that Pfizer's our last great hope. It's just that they're the one with the most attention because they're the ones making it. They're the ones getting pushed through the quickest. They're in the top, the front of the line with a good efficacy, like 94%, I think.
Yeah, a little over
Yep.
94%.
Yeah, but
And folks, the folks that have reviewed that data, who I haven't seen the raw data, but I will tell you, the folks that have seen it, that I've heard or spoken to, they said that it's an exceptional data set,
good.
and those are the people that I trust. So I I've got high hopes. How about that?
This is the part of the show where we remind you that Jacob is the one person here with the credentials to talk about this, though he doesn't need to toot his own horn. If you're new, he's more than just a talking head and knows things. So that you have that going for you, which is nice. Which is why Staring at Goats is your number one resource for COVID news,
That's right.
according to something I read somewhere. Don't check me on that. Uh, but Travis, let's get to you because I've got jack crap for a roundtable this week. My life is just a carousel. It just goes around and around. So you tell me
I
what's
mean,
up.
I had all my excitement last week with waiting and waiting and waiting for test results. So this past week has been nice and relaxing in that respect. I just sort of, daily go to work, which is across the hall from my bedroom, and that's about it. Yeah, not a whole lot for me to really say in terms of what's been going on lately,
Yeah.
which is good. No news is good news for me.
Well,
I'm fine
that's
with that.
fair. That's fair. So it's clearly Travis and I have all our emotions stored at the end of the show, which we'll
Yes,
get
you
you
do.
to, which we will get you to by first of all starting with our isolation report. A man has been fined $3,500 for breaking a Taiwan coronavirus quarantine for 8 seconds. He went out into the hallway, rode the bull, and got thrown back in. If you're not into bull riding, 8 seconds is how long you have to be on it for it to count. In what might be considered the most expensive 8-second stroll in history, a man in Taiwan has been fined $3,500 for simply stepping into the hotel hallway. The man from the Philippines was fined for leaving his hotel room, looking around, and walking back inside. The CCTV cameras at the hotel caught this egregious incident, and the staff immediately notified the Taiwanese health department. Taiwan has a very strict stance on the coronavirus, but has been lauded for its success at quelling the disease. The government acted quickly in restricting movements and testing people, and so far, the country of 27 million people has recorded less than 800 cases and 7 deaths. Um, I mean, granted, they forced everyone into their homes at gunpoint practically, but I mean, fines, sure, at dollar point, whatever. Same problem
Mhm.
is government enforcement of making you stay in your house, which we could not do because, well, states' rights, maybe it's a county thing, maybe it's a city thing, maybe it's a. Plus, all of America has guns, and we're clearly willing to use them to go stand in the Capitol and just look aggressive.
Yep.
Yes, without a mask on, reopen and see. I'm talking about you, assholes.
Beards
Yeah.
and bulletproof vests. Look at us. We are America. Uh, Not that I'm picking on anybody in particular, but I totally am.
Oh yes, you are. I
Yeah.
and I was too.
You are. That's fine. You're picking on Meal Team 6. I get it.
Meal teams. I haven't heard that yet. That's
Oh,
really
really?
great. That's great. All right, Jacob.
NC State men's basketball has put their season on hold. NC State has put its season on pause. Thank you. The Wolfpack was scheduled to face Michigan in the ACC Big Ten Classic on today, but the game was officially postponed. But it's probably not going to be rescheduled at this point. Team is 3-0. Blah 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 blah, and they were supposed to play Florida Atlantic on Saturday, but they did not play that game. The Wolfpack has also canceled their game against UConn, and because basically 2 members of their travel party tested positive for COVID-19. Here's a quote from the athletic director, Bo Corrigan. No, it's Boo Corrigan, not Bo
Boo
Corrigan. His
Corrigan.
name is straight up Boo Corrigan.
Boo.
That's we're in North Carolina, baby.
Hmm.
The health and safety of our student athletes and staff remains our unwavering priority. We will continue to work with all appropriate parties and adhere to ACC campus and local protocols to make the most responsible decisions moving forward. If any of the players test positive, they have to remain in isolation for 10 days from the game after the initial test. This was a difficult but ultimately necessary decision for our program, the coach said in his statement. The health and safety of our student athletes and staff always come first. After consulting with our medical team, we've decided that the appropriate measures was to pause all team activities effective immediately. Um, the reason why I thought this was interesting was because do we think college basketball is going to be able to pull this one off?
Not now, maybe
Boy,
last year.
that's yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one because the NBA was able to do it with a bubble. They're not doing bubbles in college
Mm-mm.
basketball.
Nope, nope, nope.
I don't see it making it all the way through. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, even Coach K came out today and said, "Guys, we shouldn't be playing. I don't understand what's wrong with them. I mean, we can play games and we'll do it, but we should not be doing it." And I mean, he also is coming off the worst loss at Cameron Indoor in the last 50 years. Um,
That'll do it too.
yeah, so he's but he didn't have me there. That was the
That was it.
problem. He didn't have his fans there. He didn't have the Cameron crazies weren't there. Yeah, so
Man, there is an energy. There was some study I read about consciousness and how we all might be part of a hive mind. In that, like the everyone focused on the success of a group of people will drive that people further and harder than if they're by themselves. It's kind of like why a band can play a 90-minute set and not get tired is because all this energy is projected at them from 50,000 people.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
almost believe
that's
that.
totally true.
I think that's
Cameron
totally
Indoor
sound.
is that way. I got to tell you
Yeah.
guys, Cameron Indoor is that way. The you can feel the energy in your chest. It's like pumping in your chest.
Yeah.
It's loud. It's obnoxious. The people who come and play say they've never played in an atmosphere like that. It's intimidating. It's awful. And there's a reason why other teams just fall apart in Cameron is because it is an intimidating place to play. It's one of the best venues to watch a sporting event, period.
Well,
I cannot think of another one that I've ever been to like Cameron Indoor.
and
And
and not only that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say
Oh,
if you don't have that kind of atmosphere, guess what? If it's just a stale stadium, all of a sudden it's a completely different atmosphere.
yeah.
It's not gonna be conducive to winning.
That's what I was going to say is when you're used to, even at the college level, you're used to playing in front of a ton of people, and there's an atmosphere to it, there's a feel to it, there's sounds, and then when you take all that away and you're just playing in an empty arena, it's weird.
Yeah.
I've been on both ends of that as a high school athlete in gyms full of people, and then playing the same team with no one else around, and it's just weird. It doesn't work right. So yeah, I can imagine that would be really hard for especially with something like Cameron Indoor. Cameron Indoor is just a whole different animal.
It is.
So Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine data wins the backing of the U.S. FDA staff and authorization years. The FDA released documents on Thursday that support the release of the Pfizer vaccine and show that there are no adverse effects that would be cause for concern in the data. The FDA still has to deliberate and clear the vaccine for use in people 16 years and older, and that could take days or weeks to finally happen. In terms of safety, the FDA says they do not have enough data to make a conclusion on the safety of the vaccine in people younger than 16, pregnant women, or those with compromised immune systems. The FDA staff also said that the trial did not produce data to answer the question of if it stopped infection. So, prevented and stopped are two different things. You got to keep that in mind. There were a total of 6 deaths in the 44,000 person trial. 2 were vaccinated, and the other 4 were placebo. Documents show that this rate is consistent with general population and raise no red flags.
That's good news, right? So the vaccine's like getting it's on the way to getting approved. There was nothing that was scary about it. The thing that is striking is the people that are going to need this as part of the rollout, people with compromised immune systems. There's no testing data to say that this is safe for compromised immune system. Now, it's probably fine, but our probably fine's also kind of nerve wracking. And same thing Jacobs brought up a couple weeks ago was kids under 16. No real safety data there either. So
Yeah.
what does this do to the rollout plan? Does it affect it at all? I have a lot of questions. But this article didn't cover all that. It was mainly geared towards, look, it's coming. The FDA has it in their hands, and they're likely to approve it in the days or weeks that are coming. Which I would
Yeah.
hope days, because that's what everyone's been pushing. It's like, it could be as early as tomorrow at 6 a.m. And you're like, okay.
Well, word around the campfire is they're meeting on the 10th, so that's tomorrow.
Okay.
And we could hear something as early as tomorrow. But that's kind of word around the campfire. But what's interesting about this is people with compromised immune systems, I'm sure, were included in this study. The problem that they had, or I assume that they had, was that they did not have enough of a very specific type of compromised immune system that they could actually make any declarative statements. So
Mhm.
it's not that it doesn't work in the compromised immune systems. It's just maybe they didn't have enough in the study to actually say, yes, if you have a compromised immune system, it still works in you. They had to have statistics to be able to back them on that statement. I'm
Yeah.
sure they didn't have anybody younger than 18 and maybe even 16, depending on what the data looks like. But usually 18 is the formal number for not only adult consent, but I doubt they would try to recruit anybody from the 16 and 18-year-old category. So I really doubt they have any data on anybody under 18. And then pregnant women, now I'm
Nah.
100% positive that was an exclusion criteria in the study.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get it. But I got to tell you, I don't know what to I don't know what decision you would make if you had a compromised immune system. There was a vaccine available, but the statistics weren't on your side. I mean, I'd roll up my arm and say, "Shoot away, brother.
Yeah.
Let's do this thing.
Was
Rock and roll."
we have a family member on my extended family that's very much something's gonna get me, so I just live and eat a cheeseburger when I want or do whatever I want when I want, because I'm either gonna die old or I'm gonna die young, whatever. It's very nihilistic and somewhat somewhat free
It's
spirited outlook. But his wife works in a long term care facility, like a nursing home, and she was concerned, like, do I get the vaccine or do I not get the vaccine? And he's just basically like, well, you can get the vaccine and maybe die, or you could not get the vaccine and maybe die. Which one do you want? Like, what's your choice? You could die of COVID or you could die of a vaccine. Pick one. So it really, like, when you think about it in those terms, it really opens up. Sure, you could get an allergic reaction or some sort of insane immune response that put you in the ground, which I don't think is the worst case. I think the worst case is like some sort of chronic back pain that develops, or like, you lose your sense of hearing or something stupid from a
Yeah,
vaccine.
fibromyalgia or something
Yeah,
like
like
that.
something
yeah.
weird.
That
I
would.
don't think the death part is really the worst part. I think it's and well, I'll just move on because this segues really good into the next story, that maybe death isn't the worst thing. This will move the chains, ladies and gentlemen. COVID-19 shows evidence of erectile dysfunction among men who have had the disease. Long-term effect could be ED. If you ever wanted the government to take action on anything, threaten their
Mhm.
wieners.
Yep.
It seems that the vascular inflammation issue that has been seen in different cases can extend to long term ED issues, which is, could happen because we have seen inflammation among the vascular system, circulatory system, as part of something that sticks around. And I hate to tell you that the mechanics of your unit there relies heavily on your vascular system. If it's not working
Yeah.
real well, then that's not working real well, and you're in a pickle. I don't have much more to talk about this, guys, other than the fact that I think you need to call up Mitch McConnell tomorrow and be like, if you could mandate masks so your wiener continues to work, that'd be great. But his probably stopped working a long time ago.
I
It
mean, have
doesn't
you
bother
seen
him
his
much.
hand? He's got like the
He's
the
Palpatine.
Dumbledore Horcrux hand over
Horcrux
there.
fan. Swear he's got an Edgar suit
Oof.
on. He's a space roach. I'm almost 100% sure.
He's, he's
No,
some
I
sort of
wonder if
turtle
Cialis
alien.
or go ahead. What's that?
I said he's some sort of turtle alien.
Yeah, I wonder if Cialis or Viagra sponsored this study.
I mean, they have a hey, they have a dog in the fight. You know, they could
They
be
do.
like, yeah, it causes ED. Maybe you need to get some Cialis. Maybe we should invest in Cialis tomorrow. I mean, I don't know. Who makes Cialis? Does Pfizer make Cialis?
30 years
Probably
from
no.
now,
Pfizer makes Viagra. They make
no,
Viagra.
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
They
Pfizer
make one of them. Pretty sure Pfizer
Viagra.
makes one of
I'll Google it real quick. Don't everybody doesn't have to do it at once.
them.
Let's see. That's generic now, though, right? I think you can. I think you can get generic. Who developed Viagra? This is great radio.
It is. Sorry, guys.
Pfizer. Their names
It
appeared
was.
on an application by Pfizer to patent it. So yeah, it was a Pfizer pill, and they're trying to treat
see.
blood pressure. they treated it all right. Two of the greatest things invented by accident: WD-40 and Viagra. Well done, everybody.
Well done. Good job. Is it my story next? I guess it is.
Yes, it is.
Sorry. The Ohio Department of Health now recommending that Ohioans avoid traveling to Ohio.
That's great.
Ohio has been added to the Ohio Department of Health's COVID-19 travel advisory map, meaning that the state is recommending that Ohioans avoid traveling to Ohio, and those entering Ohio after traveling from Ohio are advised to self-quarantine in Ohio for 14 days.
Did everybody follow that? Are you good? Because I went cross-eyed 3/4 of the way through.
To be fair, no one should travel through Ohio. Let's
This is
get
true.
serious.
Avoid Ohio at all costs.
They all drive on the left side of the road constantly.
Go real slow.
They hang out in the passing lane going 5 under.
So to be clear, you are free to move about the state, but the Department of Health recommends staying at home except for necessary trips. This is the first week since April where Ohio's positivity rate of COVID-19 tests were above 15%. The state has seen record level cases, deaths, hospitalizations in the past week, and all Ohioans can help to limit the spread and impact of the virus. This includes recommendations to stay at home except for necessary trips for supplies, consistent mask wearing around others, and the frequent hand washing. Together, we can help stop COVID-19. Boy, that sounds just like the rant that I had at the beginning of the show. Only I used an F-bomb and a really other bad word that I shouldn't have used. Ohio was added to the travel advisory map because the Department of Health, the 7-day rolling average positivity rate was about 15%. Yes, we already know that. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so bottom line is that there's a lot of cases, a lot of hospitalizations, the positivity rate's through the roof. And so they're telling people, no, don't travel to Ohio. Even if you live in Ohio, just don't travel to Ohio.
Is this a complicated way of instituting a mask mandate and a stay-at-home order without actually instituting a mask mandate and a stay-at-home order?
Ooh,
because that's what it sounds like to me.
Stephen.
It sounds like to me like you're saying, well, you're Ohioans and you're traveling through Ohio, so you better quarantine for 14 days. It's different than saying, I need everyone to stay in their home for 14 days. Which it's effectively the same thing. It's just said two different ways.
More flies with honey, right? Like,
yeah.
I why not? We've tried it one way and it didn't work. We'll try it a different way.
Yes, we're keeping our state's residents secure from all of the outside people by telling you that you have to quarantine for 14 days because those other people have it, not us.
Right.
It's all marketing. I'm reminded of Mad Men. In the first episode of Mad Men, when he was trying to come up with a way to sell Lucky Strikes. And he said, Lucky Strikes, they're toasted. And the guy goes, all cigarettes are toasted. And he's like, yeah, but Lucky Strikes are toasted. And it was like, you advertise the thing everybody does. Stay home. It's just a different messaging. And J.H. Jaggers is right. You really think anyone understands what we just said? No. No, they don't. So they didn't understand stay at home, but that made them angry. Now they just get confused, which is different. Unless they're confused, angry people, which can happen. If you confuse someone and they just get ticked off and yell.
Right, but as long as they're confused, they can't leave the house because they're too busy trying to figure out what you just said. By the time they get it sorted out and then they're angry, things will be over.
You know what this Jack Nugget on the TV said? Because I don't.
You know who's not a Jack Nugget?
Who's that?
Guy Fieri,
Yeah.
the fundraiser of Flavortown. So Guy Fieri has raised more than $21.5 million in 7 weeks to assist unemployed restaurant workers using his new Restaurant Employee Relief Fund. The vast majority of the money has come from personal pleas by Guy Fieri to Moe. I don't know how you pronounce
Uh,
that. There's umlauts over the E. Uh, Hennessy USA, Pepsi, and Uber Eats. That's pretty much the story. He's gone out of his way to raise money to help restaurant workers that are unemployed, and he's awesome. Like the guy gets he gets a lot of crap because he's loud, he's got the blonde hair, and he makes some crazy stuff. But damn it, he's just a cool guy. And to
yeah.
do this on his own, and it wasn't like I mean, he's been doing this for most of the pandemic, and I'm just now finding out about it. So
He's
Yeah,
not a hand
and
wavy
$21.5
guy.
million. That's a legit amount of money. That
yeah, it
is
is.
that is like government subsidy level money. I mean, it's a lot of cash.
Yeah,
Guy
and this has been a
Fieri
thing.
is. Oh, go ahead, Travis.
I was just gonna say this isn't new for him. He has always been one of those people that really pushes for restaurant workers, and that's why he started. I mean, the whole point of his show, Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives, was about going around to these places that people haven't heard of and put the spotlight on these restaurateurs who, open up a taco shack in a gas station in Texas, and it's the best authentic Mexican food you're going to find in the state. Like it's just that kind of thing. He's always been that type of person. So this doesn't surprise me that he's done it, but it's amazing that he's raised that amount of money.
Yeah, I think over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, the internet's been really tough on him for a long time. But I think the voices of people defending him have started to grow a lot. And you don't have to like his style, but you have to respect him as a human for the things that he's done for small businesses all over the country who have their name on the
Oh,
map
absolutely.
because they were on this awesome this random TV show on Food Network. And same goes for
Hmm.
the man versus food guy. He went to hole in the walls to eat the giantest burger that anyone's ever, and that puts this place on the map. There's a place we used to go to in not Flatwoods, Fairmont, West Virginia. The Pokey Dot. The Pokey Dot had a trash can lid breakfast thing that they made, and that put that place on the map. They also had fantastic cheesecake. Weirdest place you'd ever go. But anyway, no,
I don't know. There's something there's something about a character of a man or any person. It doesn't have to be a man. But the character of a person who goes out of his way to help unemployed people secure funding so that they don't lose their homes, so that they don't lose their livelihoods in the future. I mean, it's if you go to those links, and on top of that, I mean, everything I've heard about this dude, he's just a genuinely good dude. It doesn't matter how much hate and vitriol is out there. Uh, if
Well,
you're
and
a
what's
good
great
guy,
is,
eventually you'll
and
rise
he
to the
doesn't
top.
care about any of that. I saw an interview with him. He was on Hot Ones, and of course, Sean Evans on Hot Ones is going to ask him all sorts of questions and asked him about that. And he was just like, honestly, I just don't give a shit. Was exactly what he said. He's just like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You can like it or you cannot. But he doesn't ever do anything that's like it's everything he does is positive. So
Sure. It's one of those things like I think about that when you see somebody like him who's dyed his hair blonde and basically does a Hulk Hogan on his goatee. And you're
mhm.
like, that's just a weird look. Would you pay attention to a show called Drivers or Dives? I can't even say it all. From a dude just like in a suit with normal hair. Like, no. Sometimes you
No,
gotta
he's
you're a character. You're selling your image as part of that rad like 1950s car culture vibe that you're trying to put out.
yeah.
He
Oh
probably
yeah.
definitely wears his sunglasses on the back of his head though, and that's not okay. But we'll
Yes,
forgive
he
him.
does. He wears flip flops, shorts. What's funny is I remember because he came out of one of the reality shows. He came out of the next Food Network star, and I watched that series. And I kid you not, the first time he came on screen, I was like, that dude's already won. We're episode one. This guy has won it already. And sure enough, he did and got his own show. So, he made himself a character. He knows entertaining
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
and also cooking.
You got to make yourself a
So
character. That's how you get places.
you
Look
got
at
to
that
stand out somehow.
Jesse dude from the MTV Wanna Be a VJ thing. I'm dating
Yep.
myself. I know. That was like 95. Good Lord.
Way back.
Way back. Oh, whatever happened to that guy? You know he's got talent. So let's get into our deep dive, everybody.
I bet
We
he's
had
pissed
a
off about the deep dive. Regardless, I bet he is.
probably.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. So deep dive. This was an emotional week for at least for Travis and I. I know Jacob's got thoughts, but Warner Brothers has managed to tick off every star, studio, and agent in Hollywood with the decision to launch all of their movies day and date release on HBO Max and theaters simultaneously throughout 2021. This
Well, he
thing
didn't piss
was
off the consumers. They pissed off
oh
everybody in
sure.
Hollywood, though.
Well, I'm as a consumer, I'm a little ticked at this whole thing, but we'll get to that. The details are that Warner Brothers has decided 2021 is a trash pile, just like 2020 was a trash pile in terms of getting butts in seats at theaters. Theaters are struggling. Theaters may not be able to open. Depends on the state. Depends on the situation. Depends on what's going on. So they're not going to make box office dollars. So they're like, well, we're not going to make box office dollars. We have a ton of movies we have pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. We've got to release these things or they're just going to sit in a vault. No one's ever going to see them. No one's ever going to make money. Let's release them on HBO Max. We own this service. People pay a subscription for this service. Let's do it. They did it, but to the surprise of some of their partners, Legendary Pictures, directors like Christopher Nolan, who has been very vocal about this whole thing.
Do you
So,
consider him a partner?
yes, he has
You don't consider
primarily
him an employee?
no, because he's a free agent.
Okay.
He could make movies for anyone. The thing is, he
Yeah.
made WB a whole lot of money with Batman, so WB will write him a check. Let him make whatever he wants because Batman nearly did it cross the $1 billion threshold in the box office? It got close.
I think Dark Knight did.
Yeah, okay, so Dark Knight did. That's a lot of money. That's why we got Inception. That's why we got Dunkirk. That's why we got Interstellar. That's why we got Tenet. That's why they're letting him make anything he wants, whenever he wants. So yeah, he's a partner because otherwise he's a free agent. He could take his movie making to Universal if he wanted to. But Warner Brothers has always been historically director friendly, which is why Zack Snyder keeps getting to make movies. Because
Also true.
they let directors take their vision and roll it out. And a lot of studios provide more notes than a lot of directors are comfortable with. But that also caused problems with DC Universe, but that's a whole nother bag of worms. But yeah, so here we are with this situation going on. And then today I read a story that Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot, it's Gadot, was they were each paid $10 million as a kind of a way to go promote this deal because Wonder Woman's the first movie coming out in December.
Mhm.
Warner Brothers not pitched this same deal to the agencies that support people like Denzel Washington. They didn't talk to Christopher Nolan about it. They didn't talk to anybody other studios about it that have been making movies for them. So there's a little bit of an issue there in that a lot of people feel pretty shafted. And I know we're talking about millions of dollars. And if you feel shafted because you made 30 million instead of 70 million, I don't want to argue the ethics of whether that's something you should be allowed to yell about, but it's how that business works.
Out of curiosity, did somebody fact check that to make sure that yes, indeed, they truly got paid $10 million to say, "Oh yeah, AT&T did a good job here"?
I
Because
mean,
I did
it
not.
seems
I just heard
awful
about it.
convenient that was the news story released today after the big news announcement yesterday. It just seems a little
you could be
sketch.
right. But either way, let's say they didn't. The main issue the issue remains that Warner Brothers made a move without consulting any of the partners that work with them and that they publish movies for. Um, so there is an issue in that, and I'm pretty passionate about this because I'm a theater goer. I've been a movie buff my whole life. If it was a weekend, we were probably at the movies. If we didn't know what
Mhm.
movie to go see, I would open the paper on Saturday and just look at what movies were out. Just because that's what you did back in the day, kids. You had to open the newspaper and look at the movie section, or call the old movie phone.
Yeah,
And
movie
that's
phone. There we go.
yeah, that's what we did. That was where I lived, and even into college. I mean, Stephanie and I went to see movies constantly until we had Sam. We were at the movies. If there was a weekend in the summertime, it's pretty much where we were. And I I haven't been able to go to the movies like I love to, but I don't want those theaters to disappear. I'm very invested in it. I feel like I'm the guy watching my potential of taking my son to those outings and sharing that love of movies with him is disappearing for my TV in my living room. Did we get that confirmed, Jacob? I missed the chat.
I think so. I think Ace said the New York Times reported it.
Oh, okay. So we'll go
They
with
said
that
with
shit.
two people of knowledge of the deal.
Of course,
I'm
and
Yeah,
assuming that
sources.
that means that the anonymous sources are correct, but
yeah, hard to say. But anyway, that's the general story. I want to open the floor to both of you guys to get it. I've ranted about it. Jacob, I want to know where you're coming from
well,
on this whole scenario.
yeah, I'm opposite of you guys. I'm not a huge movie. I like watching movies. I love them for the pure entertainment purpose. I'm not going to go out and seek Hollywood stars out for and know their bios by heart. I enjoy watching movies, and it's not my passion to follow things like it is for you to. I mean, it's your passions. You love to follow what's going on not only in Hollywood but also with what's happening in movies and the technology associated with making movies. And I mean, you guys are passionate about it all, the experience of watching movies, and that's where you and I differ. I love going to the movie theater and eating a bowl of popcorn and eating a royale with cheese afterwards.
Mm.
But it's not. I mean, yeah, it's not something I have to go do, and I enjoy the company of my brotato more than I enjoy the movie itself, right? So that's where I'm coming from, and for me, this is just a pure T business deal. It's they had to figure out a way to make money because they ain't going to make money. The one thing I think Steven didn't really touch on was the psychology of people next year. The mentality of people is not going to be one that just goes and rushes out to these large movie theaters and just is okay with being indoors with a whole bunch of people. It's going to take some time for a lot of people to really get back on their feet, and me included, guys. I mean, I'm the same way. I don't know how comfortable I'll be next year sitting at Cameron Indoor Stadium. I just don't know, because I've spent the last 9 months. This whole ordeal has definitely caused a psychological barrier for everybody. So I think that's one other thing that AT&T actually considered in this decision. They're like, look, box office sales aren't coming back in 2021. 2022, that's a different story, and we're going to leave it open for 2022. But for next year, where we're not going to make any money off box office sales, why don't we beef up our other services? Why don't we beef up our HBO Max? So get more subscriptions to HBO Max. The way to do that is to release these movies on HBO Max. Let's beef up the AT&T internet sales. The way to do that is to get more people interested in HBO Max and AT&T and give them free HBO Max, right? Because now you're an AT&T subscriber, you get HBO Max for free. So all of a sudden you've beefed up all of your core businesses. Same way with internet, the cell phone business. So you're beefing up your entire core of your business and getting ready to actually launch back into 2022 when people's mentality will actually hopefully recover at that point to the point where they're living more of what we call a normal life, a pre-COVID life, right? So in my mind, from a strategy perspective, AT&T kind of went, well, eh, this is our only hope here. And it's a rock and a hard place. Either we do nothing and die, or we do something and try to beef it up. And we're going to piss off some people, but I'd much rather piss off some people than die. And this divorces us from some of the other decisions that they've made, which are pretty poor decisions anyway. But I'm not going to say this was a 100% poor decision. I actually feel like this might have been the right decision from AT&T's perspective to do this if they want to keep their business alive.
I think
Yes.
everything you just argued is sound, but I
Mhm.
think that the springing it on people who have poured their heart and soul into a creation that they were expecting to be debuted in a theater at some point, and
Sure.
now everybody's seeing their vision on their home TV or their phone, God forbid.
Yeah.
Uh, they're getting they're seeing that how, and I know once you release your art into the world, its interpretation is it's no longer yours. It's to be interpreted by the viewer, by the person who's got it. But they do have a preferred exhibition method. Scorsese's all
Sure.
about this. Like, told Netflix came along and paid him $1 billion to do. That's not a legit figure, but
The Irishman.
The
Yeah, we're
Irishman.
just
Right.
Yeah,
Then suddenly he doesn't care about cinema anymore.
yeah.
yeah,
Then
that's
cinema,
right.
man. Netflix is gonna put it in a cinema, so that whatever. But anyway, Travis, where are you at on it?
From a purely business standpoint, I get what AT&T was doing, and you're right. You're right. They basically had to say what's worse, the potential that we could completely collapse or we piss off some people. They were going to piss somebody off no matter what they did. It was either going to be consumers upset because the movies weren't coming out. It was going to be the crew and the creatives behind it upset because the money that they were supposed to be getting uh, wasn't going to happen. Somebody was going to be upset no matter what they did. I just don't like the rushed feeling of what they went through and not kind of because these contracts were negotiated ahead of time. I get things have changed. You can't necessarily live up to what the contract was written as, but take some more time to figure out what's going on. And that all they've been doing is just kicking the can down the road. And then finally they're like, we're just going to do this. And you get Christopher Nolan, you get all these high profile people getting upset about it. So what do? They say, okay, well, we're going to make it day and date. We're going to put it out in the theaters for whatever theaters are going to be open Christmas Day, but we're also going to put it on HBO Max. Great. Okay. I have no problem with that. I actually don't mind the idea of a theater and streaming day and date thing because it still makes both platforms viable. People that don't want to go to the theater are just not going to go to the theater. People that really want to do it, want to make it a valid thing, and it's safe to do, are going to do that. But then they had a 7-day free trial of HBO Max. You could sign up for, and you could use it for 7 days, and you could do that over and over with different email accounts. I'm not saying I've ever done something like that, but I may have done something like that before. Uh, they removed that, and that pissed off a whole bunch of people. I got into arguments with people on Twitter and Facebook over the merits of that, and somebody calling it a scummy move. Well, I can't go that far because, again, if you want to look at the pure business of it, if they allow that to be a free trial that you can just get and watch the movie on the day, that's a significant amount of money that they're losing. Because that will get taken advantage of. And that's the problem. It's not for the person who might only do it the one time for one movie or might actually just do the 7-day free trial ahead of time and then continue doing it. It's the people that would abuse that system that they're trying to curtail. So they took that away. Now they get backlash from that from a minority of people, but still a vocal subset of people. It's just you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, and there's no winning in this. So you got to try and mitigate as much as you can, but communicate it better. Just do a better job of communicating what's going on to the people that are making the decisions and the ones that are going to be affected by these decisions. Because if you just make a unilateral decision like this, you're gonna get people angry. I don't agree with Nolan in his statement of yesterday I thought I was working for the greatest film company, and today I'm working for the worst streaming service. I mean, that's hyperbole, but he's dramatic and his ego is legendary in its own right. So
He's good at
Well,
what he does. He's earned a lot of that ego. But yeah, he's one of the like 5 people that are still like, I will shoot my movies on film or die. Um,
so I have a question for you. Let's take Tenet for a good example. Tenet was released in in the streaming platform, and I think it was released in a few movie theaters, but ones that were open. But overall, it didn't make as much money as what was anticipated, right?
has that been
no,
released
like what,
streaming anywhere?
28 million? No, it's not
Or it's
rentable or
just
streaming.
It was
rentable.
it was
Sorry, rentable.
just in
It was
it was
just in
just in
theaters.
theaters.
made like 28 million globally or something. I can get that number for you.
Yeah, but what was the cost of that movie? So they pulled in 28 million or 40 million or whatever it was,
Oh, geez,
and that
a lot.
cost of that money was a boatload of money, right?
Yeah, the budget on
Yeah.
that movie was significantly higher than $28 million, a $205 million estimated budget,
Okay, so
and
they
it
made
made
10% of their money back. AT&T did.
well,
Well, worldwide they
according
made
to
359.9
yeah,
million.
Okay.
but
So
57
360
million
million.
in the U.S. So
Yeah,
they made about a 25% of their budget back in the biggest market because there were no screens. Nobody was open. I
Yeah.
mean, and movies make the majority of their money in places like New York and LA,
Yeah.
right? It's not where I live. It's those big cities, Chicago, LA, Miami, New York, and none of them were open. So
I guess the point I was trying to make here is that Christopher Nolan can come out and make the statements that he made, and I'm fine with him making it. But at the end of the day, he's not the one that's going to lose the money from poor
no.
ticket sales. And so he could bitch and complain all he wants, but it's not coming out of his pocket. He's
Well,
still
it
getting
is and it
paid.
isn't because he's most likely negotiated his contract to have points on the back end. That happens
Sure. Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
frequently, and
But
especially with your higher profile people.
the base salary is still there. He's still going to make his $20 million plus the other 50 that he's going to get from points off the back end.
Mhm. Yeah, but I mean, it's still money coming out of his pocket at the end of the day, whether or not he got that base salary. But they're not the ones like the stars and the big name directors aren't the ones that I feel the worst for in something like this because it's the now a movie like Tenet that's already been filmed and done,
Right.
fine, that money's been paid out. But these upcoming movies, these movies that haven't been released yet or are still in the process of going, or the ones that were scheduled to start and have had to push back, it's all of the rest of that crew and it's that industry that's really going to hurt from this because if those revenues start to go down, those budgets start to shrink, and you start to see fewer and fewer of these movies getting made, or fewer and fewer of the people that can do it doing it, and then they're going to move you're going to see filming moving to other countries even more than it already does because it's cheaper,
And I
Or we're
wonder
just
and
going
like
to see
that's
a whole
tough.
shitload of Marvel movies over the
yeah,
next 2 years.
which is where I was going to go in a second, but I'm looking at like Netflix is operating at a deficit. Like Netflix doesn't
Every
make
year.
Mhm.
money. I don't know how Netflix makes money, but they're in the hole. I AT&T is a massive company. They're far too big in my personal opinion to own a telephone, a satellite, and a movie studio. Probably like
Well,
a
yeah,
game studio in there somewhere. It's ridiculous.
i
They started as a
I have
telephone
a
company.
lot yeah, I have a lot of issues with the content creators being owned by the content delivery system providers. That
Yeah.
bothers me quite a bit, whether it's AT&T owning a studio or Comcast owning Universal, I think, which
Yeah.
bugs me too.
Yeah,
And these
Comcast NBC.
bundled things really bother me. But that's a whole other argument for probably a different day. The reasons that I don't like that because it's too much of this there there's too much of this walled garden thing that goes on. And the more and more of these providers that own the content creators, the more it hurts the consumer in the long run, in my opinion.
We're definitely
And
seeing a shift in general in the entertainment industry because the streaming services work. The problem with like the HBO Max is like, yeah, let's buff up our HBO Max. Let's get people subscriptions. Travis, hey, I just got HBO Max. You want my username and password so you can watch out Wonder Woman for the weekend? Oh, cool. That sounds great. This happens on Netflix all the time. There's no
yeah,
guarantee that AT&T getting rid of a 7-day trial is going to hurt like or is going to help buff up their numbers because I asked my mom to get HBO Max so I could watch it and mom's paying the $15 and now I've got it and my sister's watching it too. They're not watching at the same time because nobody wants so AT&T doesn't know where you are. They're like, he's on might be on travel. They don't pay attention to that stuff. I mean, this is
yeah. I mean,
common
there
practice.
definitely is some of that goes on. That's for sure. I know I had read a couple of months ago there was talk, and I don't remember what service it was going to be, but they would have you could have a service, but they would put a camera with with the box that you would have for the service. There was a hardware piece that would then be able to scan a room to tell how many people are in the room when you are watching your movie to
No,
charge you appropriately for the number of people. And my first thought was nobody's going to want that in their house. But there are people that would take it. But that's the only way you could get, because that's the thing with a theater, you're paying per person that goes into that theater. For a streaming service, you're paying one time and everybody in the house. And that's what they don't want. So they're going to try and find ways around that. The sharing, or I mean, Netflix has kind of gotten around that by saying, all right, you can have whatever it is, 3 or 4 people on an account. I can't remember. Or there's different tiers you can get to
yeah,
allow for more simultaneous streams. They're trying to find ways to not piss off the consumers while still making their money. And it's a
it's not
fine
working.
balance.
They're not making money. Uh, it's I worry about the future in a sense that you've got this $15 service. You get to watch all the Warner Brothers movies that come out. What does that mean for what they fund? They'll be far more selective. Do the movies get cheaper? Or are they like, well, we can't give you a $225 million budget because we're only making 15 bucks a
Yeah, some
month?
of that will happen
And then you
because
end up going, well, crap, how do we make this cheaper? And then everything's CG, even though it's expensive, but it could be cheaper than ramming a 747 into a something. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm kind of just thinking
I,
out loud here.
I have another question for you guys. Do you think that even after the announcement that this was only going to be for 2021 and 2022 was likely to have a different decision, do you think that AT&T is going to walk back on that and say, "Nah, we were just kidding. It's going to be here for good," or do you
no,
think
Depends.
they truly are going to go 2022 make a decision based on where they're at that moment?
they're going to want to. But I'm going to steal a line I heard the other day from Justin Robert Young, because I told you guys this in the chat, but this is too perfect. To think that this can be just a 2021 solution and no further is like calling it a non-fatal decapitation. You're not putting that genie back in the bottle. Like, it's too late at that point. You have already, because what are they going to do? They can't suddenly say, all right, well, we did it for a year, but now we're not going to release our movies on streaming the day of, and they're going to go back to the old model. There'll
Or
be
they might just
pitchforks
be
and
more
riots in the
selective.
street.
Yeah, they might just be more selective and say, "Well, these few we're going to release, and these few we're not," and then
Yeah, it's
Sure.
it's
slowly work
hard
their way
too,
back.
because even the current system, the someone like a Warner Brothers, their entire lineup of movies for a year is paid for by 2 or 3 movies. The
Oh yeah,
tentpole movies are called that for a reason, because they hold the rest of the circus up and keep things going by the money that they make. Not everyone is a Disney who has all of their movies plus Star Wars plus Marvel, where it's just billions upon billions of dollars and they just have a printing press. But
We
it's
also.
that.
I'm sorry, Travis. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say that there's a fundamental paradigm shift happening to the way things are going to be funded and built, and we've seen the start of it with your Netflix and your Amazon and their original content, and the way that they're spending money on content to where you're getting theatrical quality action films or set pieces in these films that are made and exclusively on a Netflix or exclusively on an Amazon, that aren't going to a theater. And the problem is that right now they're trying to figure out ways to make that money back.
What
how
So
long do you think
happens to?
Netflix? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask, what happens to the theaters? All these wonderful buildings that exist. I mean, 3 of them, like on the same street corner in Morrisville, not too far from here. What happens to them? Like, do we start seeing? So we brushed on this and we were chatting about this in Discord, but the Paramount rules are gone, so a
mhm.
studio can effectively own a theater now. Do we start seeing more exhibitions, almost like Jacob and I went to see Kevin Smith debut for like the 150th time, Jay and Silent Bob reboot? That was a one night engagement to watch that
Mhm.
movie on a big screen, in this case with a director. But would it be worth going to go to that model and say, we're going to exhibit a movie for a month while it's on streaming and just see if you can get the people who do want to see it in theaters? And I don't. I'm trying to think of how to
what you're gonna
phrase this, but yeah.
well, what you're gonna see is a change from multiplex theaters where you've got 8, 10, 15 screens and movies running from 11 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night on all those screens to you're going to see things shift to an older model of a one or two screen theater, and it's going to be showcases. So you're going to showcase, like we have a couple of those in my town, and we're an odd sized town to have that here. But we have two theaters that would play either a lesser release, or they would get the big release for that week might be Thor Ragnarok, but they're only going to play it for 2 weeks because then there's the next big release coming out. So you're not going to see. I really think what you're going to see is you're going to see these kind of movie palaces. You're going to see your Alamo Draft House style thing where there's more to the experience than that, and it's going to be shorter runs of movies in theater. You're not going to see a sign, or not sign, Sixth Sense that makes 20 million a week for 8 weeks in a row because they need to play the next movie that's going to be on that screen. And unfortunately, I do think we're going to see, and I say unfortunately because it's sort of the same idea as my dislike of say AT&T owning a movie studio, is you're going to see Disney or Warner Brothers or somebody buy AMC or buy Regal or whatever other theater chains there are, and try to keep them going that way. Um, and whether it's a multiplex or a couple of screens or whatever, but they're gonna try that. Somebody's gonna try that. Whether it works or not, who knows? But it's just gonna be a total change. We're done are the times of the multiplex in a mall where
Yeah.
Mhm.
you've got your 15 screens and everybody can go see whatever movie they want. It's just not gonna work anymore.
I
Yeah.
guess my biggest disappointment in the whole thing is I really wanted to see Tenet in IMAX. I had been looking
Mhm.
forward to it since the minute I heard about it. I was like, I'm going to see that on the biggest screen I can with the sound, the best sound I can. Same thing with Interstellar. I'll pay that $5 premium to watch it on that IMAX screen, and
Well,
that might be a
that's
thing that sticks around.
that
I
will.
think you're still going to get that opportunity because there's still going to be those specific types of releases, I believe.
Yeah,
But
it's
that's
just
what's going to be at the theater. You're
right.
gonna go to a theater to sit in an IMAX and watch the latest Star Wars epic or watch Tenet. You're not gonna go to the theater to watch Knives Out. You're not gonna go to the theater, and movies. Those types of movies didn't ever do gangbusters at theaters anyway. But they're not. You're just not going to see those get a theatrical release, or they're not going to be more than a couple of weeks at an art house style theater. You're not going to see them. They're not going to get the wide release where it's in every single market across the country the way that a Tenet will, or an Interstellar will, or whatever that is. So,
Yeah.
So I've got a
Well,
question for you guys.
mhm.
It shifts gears a little bit from the movie theaters and goes back to streaming for a minute. We
Sure.
talk about Netflix and Amazon both running deficits, right? We talk about them making unbelievable content that is quality content. However, they are both losing money doing it. And we're talking about HBO now releasing some of Warner Brothers movies on their streaming platform, going to lose a butt ton of money to do this, but they are going to let's ignore everything else. How what's going to happen when that deficit becomes too large? I mean, the US government, we could just continue to print money. We could be $27 trillion in debt and who gives a shit. But the Netflix can't do that, right? Amazon can't do that. HBO Max, Warner Brothers, they can't do that, right? So what's going to happen to these services when that debt becomes too great and they can no longer create those quality shows or programming that we've relied on for the last couple of years?
I think okay, tinfoil hat time. I think you underestimate the amount of attention that the government cares to pay for people paying attention to something other than them. Like think for a minute. Everybody, this is the cable guy situation, right? Everyone's so focused on like this trial of the century that nobody was reading anymore and all this stuff. And when the cable finally went out, they were like, "I'll pick up a book. This is amazing." Like They want us distracted, Jacob. The man wants us distracted. 776 will commence again. No, I'm just saying that it's look, a lot of people, yeah, put the tinfoil on. A lot more people, a lot more companies make cars than just GM.
Yeah.
Government said GM don't got no money. Let's fix that. There was a housing crisis, but let's fix GM. They need money. I don't
Right.
know that the movie industry wouldn't bank on the idea that we might need some tax relief to keep our movie industry going and keeping the entertainment industry going, because an
Mm.
Well,
unentertained
there's
population is not a happy one. Not a happy
yeah. I
one is
mean,
one that's looking other places. I mean, a lot of this is hand wavy silliness, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question. I just don't think a movie industry with as many people as it employs is any less valuable than Michigan's car manufacturing businesses.
no, it isn't any less valuable or any more valuable. It's just what it comes down to is bottom line and profits. And if studios can't make profits, they'll just stop making movies. Somebody will make entertainment. It's how much money will they get to make that entertainment?
Somebody's
Yeah,
Where
got
all
to
will
of a
they
build the
sudden,
go from that?
Coliseum for the fights to the death, then, because or make more football teams, because there's got to be something that distracts the population. It's part of the machine. We need to
I
be
mean,
Well,
entertained.
we're part of that right now.
yeah.
Podcasts arose
Yes, we
with the
will solve it.
decentralization, but podcasts arose with the decentralization of radio. Terrestrial radio
Sure.
has been dying on the vine for years because there was a shift. Movies will continue to be made. They just won't get made at the scale they do, perhaps, or with the frequency at that scale.
Yeah.
You'll still have people investing money. It's just who is that going to be? And it could be a Netflix, but if Netflix goes under, someone else will step up and do it.
Yeah, and Amazon
Yeah.
has the best shot at that because they're making money hand over fist from other things and dumping it into their Prime Video service. Where you've got
Yeah.
Netflix makes movies and TV.
So,
That's all.
so it's interesting that you're such an Amazon fan, but you hate AT&T when Amazon owns the world and AT&T owns this little chunk over here. You're
Amazon
like,
owns the
oh
world
yeah,
because
Amazon.
I'm not an Amazon
They're fine.
fan. I understand that Amazon is and AT&T has a big old mixed bag of junk. Amazon
They do.
mainly sold stuff. They still sell stuff. They're an everything store. But then they were like, well, we need systems that stand up that can handle huge loads of traffic. Maybe other people need systems that handle huge loads of traffic. And AWS was born. Now that's their cash cow. And then they were like, well, we've got the ability to have internet services all over the place. We could do a Netflix in our own infrastructure. Amazon Prime Video was born. Like it's more organic
Yeah.
than AT&T
Well,
going, I'm a cell phone company. I think I'll buy DirecTV.
see, that's where I think you've missed the boat here because I believe Amazon actually has services that you don't know about, that you don't even fully comprehend that they're actually driving businesses. For example, they have pill packaging systems. They
Yeah.
package your pills and ship you pills. They're in the healthcare market, and yet you have no clue that they're in the healthcare market. And yet we're sitting here saying, "Oh, but they're great at an internet company. They sell things." No, 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 no. They're also in medical. They're in every segment that you could possibly imagine. And so we're over here going, AT&T is too big to fail over here, but Amazon is freaking gigantic, guys.
Yeah,
I
I'm
actually
not
agree
as
with
big a
Ace
fan.
here. They're all too big to fail. Um, that's
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as big a fan of like Amazon making being the sole way that I can see something like I don't know, the Grand Tour. It is what it is, but I don't love that either.
yeah.
I- so it falls in the same category as AT&T there. I mean,
Yeah.
no, there shouldn't. I don't like the walled gardens. I don't like the siloed way that everything is going. But I'm an old school internet user who wants everything to be free and open. Not necessarily, and free and open doesn't just have to be no cost, but just
Sure.
available. You know.
Flipping
So
open source zealot. What's wrong with you? I'm
I
kidding.
know,
That is just
damned internet hippie.
no, everything should be GNU all the things. Uh,
Exactly.
no, I mean, yeah, everything. I think things work better when they're open. I have no dog in this fight, but I do. But I'm not gonna talk about it here.
Where's Og when you need him? I'm over here ranting about Amazon. By the way, I have ordered from Amazon. So anybody who thinks that I'm still on my anti-Amazon boycott. I'm not, because we're in a freaking global pandemic. I'm going to utilize the services that I can get my hands on. So, yes, I am ordering from Amazon. Yes, I still hate them. I still loathe them. But I have put aside that hatred just long enough to get through this global pandemic, and then I'll resume my hatred.
I've got
It's
Amazon
much
turning
like
on and off my Christmas lights, so I'm in.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
you're
much like
all
my
in. I
hatred
mean,
of
that's
Walmart.
Look, it's
I
just
don't want to
it's
shop at
another.
Walmart, but if it's the only option, what are you going to
It,
do?
yeah, that's
if
true.
if Amazon has a PS5 or excuse me, Walmart has a PS5, I'm there. I don't care how bad I don't want to go to Walmart. That's its own set of different reasons, though. But if we could get, and I work for Amazon, so thank you. Good, yeah. Well, great. A lot of people. I have good friends that work for Amazon, and Amazon works them to the bone, in their
Mm.
particular position. But no, I mean, hey, we're getting into a much deeper conversation than just COVID. We're trying to
I know.
re-engineer uh, major
We're going to fix the
industries.
world's problems, damn it.
We really are. I'm
The
swearing.
three
When
of
this
us.
COVID, when COVID's over, y'all are gonna get a staring at goats live with me, Patrick, Travis, and Jacob on the back porch,
We
sipping
are.
bourbon
Mm-hmm.
and solving the world problems. We'll get there.
I'll have me a cigar in my rocking chair. I don't know about you guys, but I will.
You can. Last time I had a cigar and a scotch with you, I woke up so hungover I couldn't think straight. So I don't know if I'm gonna do that again. That was rough. That was rough.
Oh, I could do that.
But maybe after the COVID, I'll feel like it's worth it.
There you
Let's
go.
get to our emails. We actually got an email that came from Audie. This actually came in on December 2nd, but I think we missed it because it got filed away in promotions. But he
Mm.
wanted to say, "You're the first I've heard talk about the vaccine not yet tested on kids." That's right. First you've heard here on Staring at Goats. I definitely plan on getting the COVID vaccine ASAP. I'll get it for my kids as soon as their pediatrician recommends it. The way their school has been very outgoing about getting kids vaccinated for the flu, I'm willing to bet the schools will be the place to vaccinate kids when it comes. That's all I got. Besides, my state of Georgia looks like it's going to be the center of the Republican Party civil war. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
it
you for
will.
that. Well, we won't bother with that last part. But yeah, I think schools seems like a logical place to do vaccine drives. If we get enough vaccines that drives like that are possible, like max
Yeah.
vaccine. Because I mean, at work we have them, the flu vaccine day. At Duke we had them. Everybody walked down to the basement and got in line and got their flu shot. Every one of us, hundreds of people. Uh, so yeah, I think that seems logical for
The
sure.
biggest problem I have with that logic is that they may not have the infrastructure to be able to handle the two current vaccines with the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines. Once we get the protein-based vaccines that are more refrigerated or frozen, I think we could, but deep freezing probably not going to be able to handle that. They're going to have
Yeah.
to go to a medical center.
Well, that's probably true. I mean, that's just the deep freezing bit is just for getting them to their location, and then they can sit 10 days at a more reasonable temperature.
It's 10 days in the case that they've made. It's they have to deliver it within 5 days of that case.
Okay. Do they put it in your body at negative 90 degrees Celsius? That seems insanity. They gotta
No,
warm it up before that, right?
from what I understand, I think they at least warm it up to
Yeah.
They just
an
kind of
injectable
rub it
temperature,
between their hands.
Good gravy.
because
Like
it's completely frozen, so they've got to get it in a liquid form. So
icy veins.
it can't be
Yeah.
below.
Well, good. Well, you know what else can't be below this hour and a
Freezing.
half show? Can't be below an hour and a half. It seems like we keep driving it there with these deep, impassioned discussions. You guys, this has been a good show. I've had a great time. I think we learned a lot. We solved at least a few major problems, which is what we do here at Staring at Goats. If you have questions, comments, feedback, hate mail, whatever, be sure to send that to staringatgoatspodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to read your email if you've got questions, if you've got thoughts on this whole movie thing that you want to follow up on,
Yes.
please let us know where you're at.
Absolutely.
Other perspectives are good because we're just a couple three dudes who don't, we only know what we know. But I'd love to hear from you.
Oh, and hate mail. I went on an epic rant, and I probably shouldn't have gone on that far. But
Let it
yeah, I'd love
happen.
to hear some hate mail about it. Let me have it, baby. Let me have it. Send me an email. Staringatgoats@gmail.com. Staring at Goats
Yeah.
podcast at gmail.com. Sorry.
Yeah, staring at goats podcast@gmail.com. If you like the show, give us a review on whatever podcasting service you listen on. We'd really appreciate that. You can support us with Patreon, twodorks.net/support. We'll take you there, even $1 a month for this, plus horseshoes and hand grenades, plus whatever streaming we do. Oh my word. There's just a lot of fun things going on. Follow Travis. Travis is streaming all the time. TV's Travis on Twitch, playing Phasmophobia with really cool people and scaring the pants off himself and everybody else. Shout out to everybody who came out to the charity stream on Friday and helped us out there. We made $1,500 for Toys for Tots in that day, which is
1,500.
That's so
$1,500.
good.
So y'all really turned out for 2020. We didn't know what to expect given the circumstances, and it certainly was amazing. So thanks for that. We do that every year. So if you learned about us through that and you want to come back, look forward to next December. We'll do the same thing with new games and new faces. But thanks to our patrons who helped the show: Hammer Dwarf, Og, Adam and Christina of Geekheim, Oddly Normal One, and our parents. Keep the lights on around here, and we will see you guys next time on Staring at Goats.
Meh.
I'm leaving those little meeps in there. By the way. Those are staying.
Good.
Good